Welcome back, War Room fans. So here we go with UK Anzac, part 4 of our UK strategy discussion. So, as we can see, that's the totality of all the Anzac guys. So this one's probably going to be a lot shorter than all the other videos because, quite frankly, there's not really much Anzac can do. The main issue Anzac has is that they're unlike in Axis and Allies Global, where Anzac has an income, can take some of these territories and get a big income. They can actually be a minor power like Italy. Well, in War Room, that's not the case. This factory, it's a 2 factory. That's the most you can build for Anzac on any turn. But once again, Britain has other areas of concern. So Anzac's not really going to be building up at all in this game. But that doesn't mean they don't play a role. And let's go over, I was thinking about it, there's really 3 things about Anzac that you can, try in your game. But the ultimate goal of Anzac is basically to be a pain in the butt. But let's just talk about the very first plan on defense. There's 2 defense plans of Anzac if you think Japan's coming at them, okay? So the first defense plan is obviously just crash everything here. Crash it all down here, okay? Now remember, on our Middle Earth strategy, the 12th was one of those units I said always goes up to P14, okay? If you're going to do that Middle Earth, let's get everything to India we can with air, okay? So if you're doing that plan, then the 12th is gone, okay? And then you just move the 68th and the 80th into here. And that's about it. That's about all you can do, okay? Now, let's say you want to do you're going to have to use your American brothers over here, okay? And now this strategy usually goes in with the 3rd Anzac strategy, which is we're going to try to get down into the Bunny Islands. But in order to do this goal, you're going to have to convince the Americans that this is a good plan on the first turn to dump the 73rd and the 50th into P18. They bring in the 4th into P18, and you just hope the Japanese didn't write all their naval power to P18, okay? Because then if the Americans can get over here to help you out, you have the 80th up here, you now have 9 ground units in here. You've now made it a real pain in the butt for Japan to even contemplate going against Australia, okay? But there is obviously some risk involved because, as with every plan I've discussed, we have no idea what Japan wrote on that first turn. So if they crash everything into P18, they're going to, basically all the Allies at that point can do is just hope, beyond hope, that 1 naval unit survives. And so then the next turn, you can just write orders and land all your ground troops. Because I did that in 1 game. Bryce came down with everything and wiped me out, and I lost basically all the Americans. Okay, I noticed when I was pre-setting up this a little bit, there's supposed to be an American strat and fighter here, but oh well, not a big deal. So that's kind of the second, let's dump everything, but you need America. Come on in here. Let's load up Eastern Australia, okay? Then the 3rd part of Anzac is that, remember I was talking about the Middle Earth plan, this 9th naval unit, okay? Well, here's the thing about Anzac, is that Anzac, their land commands, if they're all in Eastern Australia, a little bit off screen, they can always come off and go 1-2 and land right here with naked land commands, okay? This aircraft carrier, now I misspoke in the last video, that aircraft carrier, it can fly air units up into here. So that's why I'm saying the 9th almost never leaves here, because you can't bring in naked transports up into here as long as the 9th is here. You're going to need naval power to protect them, okay? That's why I say that if you ever see these guys dip off here to the west, okay, chasing British over here, and this 5th Fleet, remember, it doesn't have a carrier. So even if if this goes away, you can come down here in a P-16 as long as if you don't think the 5th wrote orders to go into here, okay? So if that happens, let's say the 5th decides to go up here to consolidate with the rest of the Navy, and this is empty, no chance of this guy, and he's gone, you can just drop 2 land commands down here and jam both these money islands, okay? So that's the big thing with Anzac, and especially if you can get the Americans over here, then all of a sudden you can just start, you can jump right in here. And if the Japanese lose these 3 islands, you pretty much will have won the war. Because without their oil, they can no longer build Navy, they can no longer build Air Force, they can't even build tanks anymore. They're pretty much well out of the game. So if you're playing against a Japanese player who's really lackadaisical down here and not really watching what's going on, it can be one of those, it's going to be a war room scenario though, guys. And what I mean by that is, let's say they do get out of there and you jump down here, okay? But once again, remember, we're talking, we don't have any surface combat up here, and their whole fleet's rallied in P-13. Well, they can come down here with just like 1 guy and stop the invasions off of here, okay? So it's going to turn into that bidding war thing, which ultimately war room on a lot of these plans, it does come down to this bidding game. How much oil are you willing to do on a big gambit? If the 9th is left, okay, they're gone. The 5th is up here. We'll just say the whole Japanese fleet is in P-13, okay? And you're looking at that situation going into next turn. So you haven't finished the current turn yet. And you go, you know what? We can actually do it. Holy cow, we could bring 2 land stacks here and take both Java and Sumatra. But once Japan sees that, you then with Britain, you could, if you wanted to, if you thought, well, you know what? I think this is a really good plan for next turn, a good operation for us to do, is you could literally save all your oil on the current turn. Remember, the start of the next turn, you get your oil. So let's just say Britain has 9 oil. Well, now the Japanese player, he has to, if he doesn't want to call your bluff, so he's going to, you almost force Japan to bid 10 to beat you down here. Because remember, your guys are here, you're going to bid 9. So your guys definitely will get into Java and Sumatra. So it's almost like they have to bid 10. And once again, if the Japanese player is not watching what's going on up here and go, oh man, they're down here, but don't worry, I'll outbid them. But on their current turn, their production turn, they spend all their oil, and next turn they only have like 7 oil. Well, then Britain can go, well, great, now we only need to bid 8. Make sure you beat them and get on these islands, okay? You get down in here and you knock out 5 oil. I would even argue, if that scenario presented itself, that you pretty much, if let's say the Americans are up in here with you, when you hit these 2 islands, you don't come in with like, well, I'll just bring in enough strength. No, I mean, it's almost to the point where you almost like dump Australia, everything you have onto these islands. Because then you basically guarantee it that Japan is not taking it back. They're not getting these islands back. So that's basically Anzac in a nutshell, guys. Okay? Those are your big things. I think really though for Anzac, the very top level of Anzac is if Japan rallies everything in P-13 and does that Australian crush plan, which I talked about with Japan, pretty much while Australia is dead. There's nothing you can do to stop it. You just hope you kill as many guys as you can and delay Japan as long as possible. Make them burn commands down here, make them burn turns. Okay? Because Australia literally is indefensible unless the Americans do a heavy commitment of everything constantly coming over on the Pacific side. The problem, though, the Americans have is that takes a lot of commands into a theater that, yeah, we don't want to lose Australia, but I, as an American, you know, I'm playing the United States, I can do a lot more good with all those commands than sending 6 commands trying to get them down in here, okay? So that's basically what Anzac comes down to. Now, of course, we always have the 8th Naval here. Now, you can say, well, come on, Payne State, you could use the 8th to cover them down here. But this whole plan to go into P-16 is more, it's almost like a sneak attack. Catch them off guard. This force actually, if you're talking with your Americans friends over here, and Japan isn't coming down to P-18 on turn 1, you might be better served actually to send the 8th off with the Americans. Just boogie them out. Get them out of there. Another thing you could do, you know, if you're Mr. Aggressive Fatalist, you know, well, they're all going to die anyway, so let's go out with a blaze of glory. So maybe you send in the 8th, maybe not on the opening turn, but maybe on the second turn or something. Just send them to P-15. Let them tangle with any Navy in here and at least let them get their 5 shots in. Hopefully against, you know, a stack like this, a battleship, a cruiser, maybe at least take down that cruiser. And you never know, against a battleship, they got 7 coming back at you. Now they got 6 coming back at you. You might actually survive for a round 2. I don't know. It just depends on what you're going to do with these with the 8th. The only problem with keeping the 8th here is they're always going to be leery of down here because then you can bring in actual surface units. It's kind of like if you send them away or just bonsai them in on a weak stack somewhere, then it kind of makes Japan it takes their guard down a little bit. Okay, well, the Money Islands are secure. They don't have a Navy within range. So then maybe they just lose focus and send them out somewhere. So that's it on Anzac, guys. So building here, that's completely optional and up to you. Just don't put a huge investment down here. You know, maybe one guy a turn. If you want to at least beef up Australia a little bit, maybe one a turn max. And don't even worry about this building a Navy down here on some grand crusade against Japan. It ain't happening. So if you thought that was going to happen, get that out of your noggin because it ain't going to happen. So that's it, guys. And I'll be back with part 5 of the UK.